Hi guys, welcome back to YILDIZ Readings 5D. For those of you that don't know me from a bar of soap, I'm a psychic medium, I'm a twin flame coach. I cover astrology, moon energy and psychic channeled messages. If you feel this vibe is really your tribe, please come along and join us for up-to-date information relating to how this moon energy is going to affect your zodiac sign. You can stream forward and stream back, and it has the elements as well as the zodiac placements. Stay tuned for the most up-to-date information and your chakra reports inside this. Without further ado, let's get into the energy of this moon and how it can affect your zodiac sign. Love and light, guys. Let's get into it. Welcome to your new moon in Pisces. Now, I have spent some time absorbing the energy of the Pisces moon, and I think really journaling has always been my best friend, and especially sitting with the energy. I guess in a way, depending on where it falls in our chart, which I will go into in this video, I had a bit of a thought this morning and I did some journaling, and one of them was a little bit of a metaphoric poem to self through the theories of delusions and illusions, but it's also with the pain body experience, which I do coaching on YouTube with, and the perplexity of coming to terms with what is, what has been, and what you need to do to move forward. Some of us might be looking at despair of love, especially because we have Pisces in Venus, and it will be moving, I believe, around the 20th into Aries, which will be quite an action-packed energy moving forward. So the extract to my post on Facebook was, memories can be our muse and our arch enemy. That what gives us the drive is the pain of incomplete. That what haunts is the enemy of deception. Wanting to be and being are two different things. Accepting is a process. No one's immune to such, nor can we escape the work. Acknowledging what we want, what is the past, and what can never be, can be deeply traumatic. Fighting the dark over embracing the view. For why we wish to in such a distorted reality. The fact is, perhaps, the darkness is the truth we wish not to accept, bitter memories of hopes dashed that are not acceptable in our mind's eye. One could say the best is yet to come. How do we know accepting isn't such? So, in an emotional pain body experience we just had the full moon in Virgo, which was the 2-week energy moving into the new moon in Pisces. Now, Pisces is very dreamlike and romanticized, which can make it simpler to be looking at both the yin and yang inside of those vibrations. This can be anything linking to our work life, the things we love, our relationships, because it is in the 7th house, which is marriages, contracts, partnerships. And it's how all those interconnections and our actions towards these hopes and dreams are formed. Now, Neptune is, it's the magician energy, so to speak. So looking at it, if we do want these hopes and dreams to come true, are they based, on a reality? And it's like, what is a reality? A dream is a dream, but it's also, to make that happen, what steps will we need to take? And a lot of times, if we are, with Neptune being the planet of psychology to a degree, if we can look at those things and come to terms with the past and face that shadow and, be in allowing that maybe it was painful that some of those things didn't come through. But it doesn't mean that the best isn't yet to come, but it's coming to terms with those things in your best ability possible. That you can, take the direct steps to move forward with a lightened load, especially because we do have Aries and Chiron at the moment, and Virgo is high heart chakra and Mercury. So a lot of people had been having distorted sleep, overactive mind, because we had triple Mercury almost, with the nodes in Gemini being Mercury, Virgo being Mercury, and Mercury in Aquarius and shadow till the 13th of this new moon in Pisces. So you may find some reprieve Guide yourself easily into it. A lot of these things potentially can come up, and then we can use this compass to move forward to get the best out of our future. Now, I will get into the next zodiac signs. You can stream forward and you can stream back to find your zodiac sun, moon, and rising. Welcome, earth signs. Let's have a look at Virgo, Capricorn, Taurus. You can stream forward and stream back should you need to. All the information below for bookings is there. Let's get into your zodiac sign and see how potentially this energy can be coming up for you. Okay, Virgo, let's have a look at your chart, how this moon energy can be shaping the next few weeks for you and for you moving forward spiritually and physically. Now, energetically, we did have the full moon in Virgo, which was your natal first house. So, you know, really easing yourself into this transit, especially this month, moving into the month of April. And that's due to the fact it's really moving through very strong energies within your chart at the moment that, you know, really looking after your nervous system energy. Now, we did have Mars and Taurus previously, which you might have been a little bit worried about where things were going. If things were going to be okay, and anything to do with you upskilling, learning things, your viewpoints of what was happening in the world, maybe even within your spiritual connections, it could have been putting a lot of pressure in those domains. You know, some of you might have been very, how do I see this grow? What do I do in order to achieve this? Potentially a lot of expenses. Maybe some of the plans that you have are very large in nature. So with that in mind, Pisces is hitting your 7th house placement, which is currently like a Venus retrograde. And, you know, when I say Venus retrograde, it's more you're having a return to the energy within your Venus. And we currently do have Pisces transiting Venus. So it's like a Venus return, so to speak. So you may be going over all the connections in your life, viewing and assessing and looking at what you can do to change things around and how you feel to do with those circumstances. Are you in love with your job? You know, are you doing the things that you want to do, especially with all that heavy hitting Aquarian energy? Are you burning the candle at both ends, or are you needing to actually move towards putting more energy into certain domains? And I know a lot of us collectively, we're trying to find that spiritual, psychological balance. So it may be too much energy in one domain, and it's a little bit like we're learning how to be butter. But also in that retrograde effect, Mercury will be coming out of shadow the day of the new moon in Pisces. So it's going to give us an opportunity to go, wow, okay, what did we learn over the last few weeks? How did it directly impact us, potentially over the last 2 months, really? And what are we going to do to steer the ship forward? So Aquarius fell in your 6th house. Was it affecting your health? Was it a direct environment you're living in, working in? Was it some routines and habits that were affecting you? Is there a requirement for healthy boundaries with others or with self? And, you know, resting was very important over the last 2 weeks, and maybe even for a few days looking at, okay, where are we going from here? Because I will be doing a new moon and a full moon each month, and the next full moon is connecting to you know, your resources, your income, but we'll get into that a little bit later. So number one, it sort of is connecting regardless, so we will have a bit of a chat about it. Now, Venus links to both your 2nd house and your 7th house in a sense of income, the way you're showing up in your relationships, the way you're dealing with your contracts and your partnerships, and where your income and self-esteem comes from. So any work that you're doing on to bring to a head, bringing up things, communicating, tackling circumstances to create balance, it might be in your foundation. You're going to have between now and the full moon in Libra to complete some of those things and really follow your intuition. I do feel during this time you'll be assessing those things, but it will be almost, you will know very clearly as we move through in the weeks progressing. Shadow energy, in a sense, can come up, but you can see a reality of a circumstance, and it can be deeply, deeply liberating and more motivational for us to come through in a very passionate sense. I do see some of you looking at wounds of where people in the past weren't there for you, what that means, what endings mean, and how we can challenge those without it having to be yucky. But I do see you to be really tuning into past tense scenarios, and don't be surprised from hearing from people from the past or even thinking over those circumstances. Hi Capricorn, let's have a look at your chart. Now, number one, we do have Mercury going direct as of the 13th, which you will be deeply relieved by, so to speak, because we did have heavy hitting Aquarian energy with that Mercury retrograde. Now, you should find some reprieve from your second house placement, which will be your self-esteem, your sanity, building upon your stability and the actions you directly need to take, especially when it comes to your hopes and dreams. And I do feel if you were waiting on communication to come in, or really feeling you were pushing that wheelbarrow up a hill, you find a tactical approach to be able to deal with these things, but I do feel communication is the key. Some of you may be looking at upgrading some appliances. It might be anything to technology, computers and cars. But again, communication, networking, sending resumes out can be very positive, as well as dealing with sensitive issues inside of your romantic connections. You really and truly want to deal with those circumstances and look at the reality of things. Currently, we do have the North Node in Gemini until next year, which is your 6th house placement to do with your health. And again, communication's the key, asserting yourself, but working through those things, what we've learned and how we can understand other people's perspectives, but also ourselves, so that, you know, the busy hustle and bustle in your routine, if it's managed, it will be more manageable. Now, with Pisces being in the 3rd, currently the reason I mentioned Gemini is because we do have Mars there. So any creative projects you should have some leeway in. Luxuries and diet may be getting back into balance. And definitely with Mars being in Gemini, you can actually become more active. But you do need to be careful to be practical. And I feel this new moon in Pisces is going to give you the added advantage to say, okay, where am I on point? Where am I maybe pretending that things may get better, and I may not need to communicate and talk about your hopes and dreams, selling yourself as a network, so to speak. It depends on where it relates, and remember, it is marriages, contracts, partnerships, as well as your place of income. And with those groups, I feel you'll have a lot of subjects relating to communication inside of those situations. And if you can focus with those in a healthy way, speaking and working through things, and definitely networking, I do see it to be beautifully positive for you, Capricorn. Hey, beautiful Taurus, let's have a look at your chart. Now, we did have Aquarius transiting your 10th house, which was potentially you were feeling as though you were doing everything, maybe getting nowhere. Some of you could have been looking at employment. Some of you may be looking at the way people are looking at you and having needs upon you. But also where that stands. And sometimes I look at the 10th house as purpose, definitely from a purpose point of view. Are you on mission? Are you doing the things that resonate with you? Now, that may have been very, very testing, especially because through your zodiac at the moment, we have Uranus transiting. So with those squares, it was very difficult last month, and you could be recovering, so to speak. And some of that pressure will be taken off due to the fact that Mars has moved out of your 1st house and into your 2nd house. So anything to do with your self-esteem, you'll be picking up and moving forward. But you do need to be mindful that, you know, with trigger points and communicating effectively, what we've learned, what those bugbears were and blocks can be directly applied during this new moon in Pisces. Now, Pisces does come to almost being on mission with your hopes and dreams and aspirations, and that we can't tend to find that on the outside of us, but we can find the key to it on the inside of us and what that means. So some of you relating to your marriages, contracts, partnerships, your connections, your work, whatever you're pouring your energy into, I feel you're going to have a way to view it and say, both with your self-esteem, both with the taxing energies of the last 2 months, you know, what you're going to do to move that ship forward. Doesn't mean actually having some reprieve by investing in things that make you feel happy. You know, what is your zine and follow your bliss. But when it does come to the bigger picture, potentially for your friends, your pastimes, you know, how you're showing up inside of these groups, but what you want to happen with the bigger picture, that you can have a look at that and take the bull by the horns. And I do feel, even from a monetary point of view, you may find you can be almost have the gift and the Midas touch at this point if you can take direct steps. So that can be beautiful connections. It can be beautiful ways in which you can grow beyond a wound potentially, especially because we are going to be having later on through the month Venus in Aries, and Venus in Aries is your 12th house, so you want to know that you're spiritually connected. You may notice that through these circumstances, by addressing the adversity or the emotions that come up in a pain body experience, you can move beyond the wound and be a very, very beautiful creative mind. I'm in my air energy already. Had to record this twice. Getting tongue twisted with all this Mercury energy, I tell you. So this is for Libra, Gemini, Aquarius. Let's have a look how this moon transit and moving forward is going to transform and benefit you guys and any unseen we have not seen yet. Now remember, you can stream forward and stream back, drag and drop, and you can see your sun, moon and rising. Let's get into the energy. Only fitting that we speak about Gemini yet again. Welcome Gemini, only because we do have the North Node in your house as well as Mars on the 5th transited into your 1st house. So you can be firing on all pistons at the moment, Gemini, and you may be gaining some sense of a voice. And it's not to say that you guys can't articulate in a fashion, but if you feel you've been, you know, off par and maybe observing things and it's been an unfair circumstance, I feel you'll really be thinking about how you're showing up in circumstances and what you can do to change some of that. So it's strange. It's more the notion of third eye. Maybe if people are pressing you and pushing you, I think they may underestimate who Gemini really is. And you're going to be putting a lot of energy into yourself from a spiritual growth point of view, but also the things that you're needing to address. I feel you'll have a lot more vivacious energy to pour that forward. You do need to be careful that we don't Mars people, the proverbial analogy I've been using. Now, with this new moon in Pisces, it does come down to your 10th house. And this is about looking at, have you been on mission? You know, what is that purpose in your life? What do you want to do from here? Has a lot of focus been on other people? Have you been looking at the bigger picture with individuals in your life? And, you know, where those circumstances are going, and potentially you may have grown and you may be feeling other people haven't. And it's not necessarily that that's so, but you're looking at the bigger picture of, you know, where those relationships go, how they're going to grow and how they're going to change with the group energies coming through. Some of you can have emotions relating to old connections. You may be believing that growth means movement, and of course we energetically do, but you're wanting to work with individuals who are working with you. You're wanting to work with individuals that see the bigger picture and have that zest for life and really want to go out there and tackle the world. And I do feel, from a self-esteem point of view, you can be very loving and compassionate and understanding, and I feel you're wanting people to work together. So, you know, at the moment, I feel with this new moon in Pisces, you may be having a lot of planning, and there can be growth in your career sector as well, especially if you've been waiting for that dream energy, really pouring that into it. It can be deeply psychic at the moment for you to tap into and get excited about, so to speak, Gemini. You may need to spread yourself quite fine this month though. So as it picks up, as we move away from this new moon in Pisces, I do feel it's going to be all systems go. And especially when it does come to the Venus transit into Aries, which will link to your 11th house, it can be an extremely social month. So Get ready and hold your hats. Oh, Aquarius, are you tired? I feel you. Okay, so we had so many heavy-hitting energies transiting through your first house. Last month we had the sun, the moon, we had Venus, we had Mercury, and yes, you will be very happy to know that it shall be going direct the day of the new moon in Pisces. I'm just going to say the night, which is possible. Okay, so with that direct, you can find some reprieve during that point. Some of you are experiencing a Saturn return, which can be deeply, a deep burden, I'll say. Very challenging emotionally and physically. Lots of transformations happening, especially when it was coming to home and family for you guys and with all your group settings. Now, self-esteem and your emotions can be building, and even your direct foundation. If you've been working very hard at home and trying to create, balance and looking at values inside of doing things for people, outside of that, you're going to find that the second house where Pisces is landing, you will have new beginnings. This can be landing new jobs. It can be your belief to do with money and, the necessity for it. This can also be giving you a 101 of, okay, were you on point and weren't you? And what do I mean by that? Are things in order? Did emotions relating to that transit affect you and affect your self-esteem? And I do feel with this new moon energy, you might be looking at your direct foundation, both with home and finances, and saying, okay, that is what inside of us does need to be balanced, but directly under our feet also. And I think you're going to want to balance those two things. Some of you, as I mentioned, can gain a new way in a very creative sense to gain finances. And it also can be the steps that you're taking to turn over that new leaf and create that stability for self. Now, as we have Venus transiting into Aries, yes, it's going over Chiron. So I do feel it'll be very romantic and passionate, especially of a Mars nature. But you can be talking, very strongly and romantically and assertively to individuals by that point. But you can be really, putting your money where your mouth is to a degree with your relationships, your contracts and your partnerships. And I do feel it'll be quite assertive. You do need to be careful, however, even though it's beautifully aspected, is that we do have Aries and Chiron, the wounded healer. So some of those things where people misunderstand you, it could be a cause for fear. It might be, hey, every step I take, why does it turn out bad? Try not to tell yourself those false fulfilling prophecies. Trust the process and move forward with it. But definitely there can be a new income stream coming in, but it might be that you need to change something in order to make that happen, and it may be necessary. Oh, Libra, well, yes, this month, although we're going to be talking about the new moon in Pisces, we do need to pre-warn you that this month we are having a full moon in Libra, so it can be an emotional time. And I do feel with all of this Aquarius energy, the Taurus energy, and let's just get into what I see coming through for you. Number one, the last 2 months may have been very taxing emotionally, financially, and physically for you. And the notion of endings and having a lot of things to do, tying up loose ends may have been very fatiguing for you. Especially when it did come to everyone's needs, hopes, wishes, and potentially even yours. So, money coming out of the nose, running around, running errands, trying to get things done in a balanced sense, and maybe even learning to be self-reliant on self, which I think most Librans really have been working extremely hard on. We do have Mars transiting out of that placement now, so it can give you some relaxed energy until about, when's the next time we have a square? June the 14th. So you've got a bit of a break in that area now. But do keep an eye on it and keep working at that so it doesn't come back up again. And yes, it is the place of change. Now, Pisces is falling in your 6th house of health, and I think you're learning to self-master, change your routine around, create healthy boundaries, maybe changing your work environment up as well. Now, yes, that can be getting new jobs. In other ways, it can be the way that you're eating your food, taking time for self, nurturing, maybe coming to terms with things spiritually and psychologically. But I do feel it's about you guys really shaking things up and addressing them head on. And especially no longer maybe looking at the psychological aspects of how circumstances had been really wearing you down. And now what you can do to, you know, really, it's almost like a learned lesson. It's like, okay, I hear you, Libra. You know, learned lesson and saying, okay, we're not butter. We can't be everything to everyone. But what can we do to feed our soul energetically and be on point? And yes, because the North Node is in Gemini, we do need to be quite organized. And I do feel with Mars transiting into Gemini for you, now that it's moved away from Taurus, you can find that your diet, your health and your nutrition will become easier to deal with, and it can be a very active month. So I do feel you guys taking the bull by the horns and really to a degree looking after yourself, eating healthy, emotionally, you know, maybe mulling over some of these things, but tackling it and moving forward. And I do feel even in your career sector, you may find that those circumstances can be very good for you, very lucrative. And you'll also find, as we have the other half of the month, you know, you do need to get as grounded as possible. So if you're feeling really worn out, do such to nurture yourself. Try and be organized, chuck the trash out, so to speak, proverbially, because we're not only going to be having Venus transiting your Venus house, which is Aries collectively for Libra, different in your personal chart, but it still will resonate. So we'll have that, and we will be having the full moon in Libra. So if you felt that you had to do everything, first and seventh house is always a very unique place. You may be looking at where you can change the way you involve yourself with energies. This can be at work. This can be, you know, with family, friends, loved ones, partners, and how that helps you, how it hinders you. But what your part is and what theirs is too, and looking at it very honestly and earnestly. And there could be a new way you're showing up in the world. I think a lot of you might be changing your hairdo, changing the way you dress, changing the way you're showing up in the world. But yes, easy, a week in, a week out can be a little bit emotional. So just bear that in mind as we move forward. If you need some coaching, the link is below, and we'll get into the next zodiac signs. Okay, in no systematic order, fire signs, Aries, Leo, Sagittarius. Now, yes, we will have first house placements for you, Aries. We also have the South Node in Sag, and Leos are pretty tired at the moment as well. So let's take a look at your charts and look after you at this point moving forward. You can stream forward and stream back. Let's get into the energy. Now, we did have that full moon back, I believe it was in February, and, you know, a lot of you are still recovering from that. Mercury retrograde was very interesting, so to speak, very exhausting, I think, for a lot of people, and especially at the moment, having had the Virgo full moon. For you, Leo, it can be, you know, very tiring because self-esteem energy was coming up for you guys, looking at, you know, your ability to provide for yourself, looking at your ability to speak your truth and what the emotions are, and maybe being, can come up as critical, both to self and others, but it's only because it's an emotional purge, so to speak. But I do feel a lot of you really looking at that and going, right, what do we need to do? How can we get this ship moving forward? Pisces links to your 8th house, and it's the health of healthy codependency. It's a new way of showing up in connections, and it is about give and take in connections, especially because not only will it relate to work, but it will also relate to your connections point blank zero. Now, the reason you may find that it was so emotional is due to the fact that in February, we had Sun, Moon, Mercury, and Venus all in the house of Aquarius, which was hitting your zodiac sign's Venus energy. So relating to your work, relating to the people you were dealing with, the external energies, it was a very long, tedious retrograde emotionally for you guys. And you will be happy to know that this Pisces moon is a new vibration you can bring in. and emotionally looking at what you learned through that process, sitting with it and moving forward. But it is to do with the bigger picture. It's not what we hope something could be, it's what we can make it to be on our side of the fence. Being on point, being on mission. Now, Aquarius can be quite rebellious. So it might have been people were rebellious around you. It's very tribe and orientation. And it's also, it's a humanitarian. It's like, you know, have we been making sacrifices for other people to the detriment of our connections? Have we, to a degree, felt that we want the ability to be ourselves but have the freedom as well? So it's a very unique placement for it to have, and it might have been very complicated to understand your emotions through that process. You guys do have beautiful aspects this year, but it would have been a very emotional time, and you can find the give and take in connections can come back, but also, you know, with Pisces being in your 8th house, it's births, deaths, legacies, tax, but it's also the house of intimacy. It's building trust. It's working with people, but it's the healthy non-attachment. What do I mean by that? And the best way I can describe it in an analogy, I can almost not say that, would be that, you know, to be able to gain our self-esteem, and so some situation doesn't directly define us. It's having the foundation intact, but it's like, okay, I go to work, so therefore I get paid. That's healthy codependency. It's like it's give and take in a situation. It can be having a child in daycare, for instance. You're paying the fee, your child's going to daycare, therefore you're able to work. It's a healthy codependency, and inside of a connection, it's what that means to you. What would a healthy way be in order to tackle these connections and at work? And again, I go back to the spreading yourself like butter analogy. You know, what emotionally came up for you? Go back and journal. Are you doing too much? Do you need help? Can you ask for help? Is it all your responsibility? Are you doing other people's jobs? Very Virgo. Second house placement. Yes, there are ways where we can build that foundation and we can be very self-reliant, but it's okay to ask for help. So if you do feel you need to, and it's not all on you, for instance, children, you know, families, sometimes we have splits and there can be the need to balance things. Looking at the circumstances within your control could be, okay, in order to go to work, you know, and this is just an example, and especially difficult in these circumstances, but it's about looking at what you can do within your control. And you'll naturally, innately attract that into your life because we are focused on that of what we can control, not that of what we can't. I do feel you guys can be gaining some momentum and coming to a point where you're realizing the benefits in having a stable connection, but also the benefits in having your own personal security. Okay, Sagittarius, let's have a look at your chart. Now, number one, we have the South Node in Sagittarius. And yes, we will be having Juno, which is very Venus in nature, going retrograde shortly. So it will be hitting your first house placement. And you can be looking at your own personal emotions, be it male or female, to do with your relationships, your contracts. So plus, because it's the South Node for you, you're really regressing over old energy and refreshing and becoming new. Now, Pisces falls in your 4th house placement. People may have, during the retrograde, you'll be happy to know that some sense of movement forward will be easier to achieve due to the fact Mercury is going direct as of the day of the new moon. And that will be forward movement. Your day-to-day routine can become a lot more organized and the steps you take can actually be implemented. If you had issues with your vehicle, still continue to. Even though Mercury will be going direct, we have the North Node in Gemini. So I do advise all of us when we are traveling to be very mindful, more so than we've ever been before in our lives. And that's due to the fact Mercury's very third eye, throat chakra, daily routine movement, hustle and bustle, and Mars currently is there. So if we're going too fast, we're not going to concentrate and we can be prone to accidents. So I do suggest till now and through to next year, paying attention while driving, especially because you have Aquarius in the 3rd house, and it can be really doing too many things, trying to be too many things to too many people. But you're really building that self-esteem through that. So, you know, really give yourself a pat on the back for what you're achieving. Now, 4th house placement. Your hopes and dreams of what you want to achieve, and where potentially you might have been delusional because it's a Neptune in nature. It's very psychic. You've got to follow your intuition. What you're wanting to achieve inside of circumstances to do with your daily routine, your home, your emotions. Emotionally, you might have been a bit fatigued. Maybe what you need inside a house is different now. Maybe you believed you needed something different, and maybe you're seeing it from a different point of view. But 4th house can be home and family. 4th house is also any domestic issues you're having, endings, your psychological foundation. It's a house where you learn, it can be learning to parent and manage and doing things for other people. But again, as I mentioned, it can be to do with home movements and, you know, what you're really wanting in a home, what you're wanting in a tribe and a family. And whether it's relevant to you at the moment, but anything new you're wanting to create, you can have some sense of forward momentum in that. I also feel that because we are going to be having Aries energy, you could become quite fertile this month. So pre-warned, forearmed, especially with your health. Your health should start easing up, but you do need to keep a check on it. And the reason I say that is because, yes, we have Mars out of Taurus, so inflammation and things to that degree can be reduced. You also may find your diet is easier balanced, especially from a go gadget leg sort of thing. You know, if you've been doing too much and you've been eating on the run, that should sort of settle down now, and you should be able to care for yourself more adequately. But we are going to have a square with Uranus and Taurus, which will hit your 6th house, which is all to do with health, your work, your environment. So there can be changes in those areas on the 14th. So if you do feel you need to change anything up, address it. Don't sweep it under the carpet. It's really not one of those years to do such. As soon as something comes up, it's not necessarily moving to aggression, but it's don't leave it behind. We've got Gemini notes there. So you're going to have to write notes down as to what you need to achieve, and you need to get on them as soon as possible, but learn to rest where need be. Okay, water signs. Last but not least, Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces. Let's have a look at your charts and anything I see that you should need to know for this month with the new moon in Pisces. And yes, you can stream forward and stream back if you do happen to land in this area. They're all charted where you can stream forward and see the name of your zodiac, the element, and any bookings. You can go to the link below. Pisces, 1st house placement, new Pisces. What do we mean by that? A new moon in Pisces. It is your 1st house placement. So, you know, moon energies can be emotional, okay? It can be exciting, but at the same time, because it is your 1st house, even though it's a new moon, I would go easy into the moon and out of that moon transit. You know, give it a few days either side. Be gentle to yourself. You may be looking at some fallacies inside your life. You may be looking at some relevancies of, you know, who you are and how you want to be in this world, how you see circumstances. So it can be very, very deeply psychic to a degree, and especially with the hustle and bustle of movement that you had. Mars was really hitting your 3rd house placement, so ailments, throat chakra might have been coming up for you. And as we move forward, you'll find with Mars, it will become extremely active in your home zone. So for you individually, you may find that the upgrades you're doing in your home, the changes, the things you're learning about family and home can be really transformative at this point, but it can be a very active time in the life of family moving forward. You do need to be careful of combative energy in that domain, and that doesn't have to be Pisces. It's coming from your side of the fence, but it can be war wounds coming up, emotions, and we do need to be really cautious as to how we interact with that energy. And I would say, if anything, it is in its benefit, not detriment necessarily. It just depends on the way we can relate to those circumstances psychologically. Aquarius was hitting your 12th house, so you will be very happy to know that it will be going direct on the 13th. So it is a very positive 13th, so to speak, in a sense that we're going to have forward movement with Mercury, all planets direct, as well as a new beginning in Pisces, which is very, very spiritual in nature. And us tuning into how do we make those hopes and dreams come true in our life. And yes, Pisces, you will be tuning into that. Okay, Cancer, let's have a look at your chart. Now, this can be a beautiful week for you, especially because we're going to have Aquarius hitting your 8th house going direct, which will be less stress when it comes to people around you and your contracts and work, things flowing. Group energies flowing more effectively, really alchemizing those areas in a foundation sense. Now, Pisces does link to your 9th house, and again, you can be looking at maybe wanting to travel, wanting to have a bit of an existential holiday, also a bit more adventure in your life and what that would mean. And some of you, yes, may be looking at the bigger picture in a sense of what you've learned, maybe wanting to take a connection to the next level. And looking at your purpose in life, what you're wanting to do moving forward. Some of you, this can be relating to long distance work, especially because it does relate to your 2nd house and your 7th house, which is the place of income and where you gain your money from, and your contract sector, which currently, it's like what those responsibilities are and how you view those things, both truly and delusionally, because, Neptune is the magician technically in the tarot, and it can be very, manifestation oriented, but what we're doing about it. Maybe something we thought was a dream isn't necessarily such, but there's a big transformation in that area for you. So your income stream and movement, you're pouring energy into that, but definitely your self-esteem. And if you've been quiet and you've been meditating and feeling quite fatigued, it's quite natural. Emotionally, wanting to have those deep connections and looking at tribe and family may have been coming up for you, but this can be a beautiful time. And especially as we move towards the full moon in Libra, there could be a bit of a shake-up and changes in that area, but it's a transformation. You may find with Mars being in your 12th house at the moment, a lot of thoughts, especially with the North Node being there. Your day-to-day routine, what people say, why people react the way they do. You have a very conscious mind at the moment, Cancer, and it's very important to make sense of things. And this is a very spiritual time for you, especially since you are governed by the moon. You'll find that with the 9th house, the mind can be very spiritual and creative, and you can be attracting those individuals. You could be looking at your belief systems and whether you were right or wrong on things, but it's going to be your personal belief systems over others, maybe what they say versus how you see things, and what your soul's craving esoterically. Home definitely is, there can be some things in the next 2 weeks beyond this new moon in Pisces that are changing up, and you can find that tying up those loose ends can create that brand new beginning and balance in that domain. But definitely from a romantic point of view, you will be looking at responsibilities, accountability, really paving that way. And definitely from a financial aspect of things, your creative mind is going to be a gift, Cancer. Use it effectively. Scorpio, now your 7th house placement is set to be able to take those transformations to the next level. Now, some of that shake up in the last few months might have been due to the fact that during Mercury retrograde, we also had Black Moon Lilith in Taurus, we had Mars in Taurus, we had Uranus in Taurus. And all of that was really causing a bit of a rattle in the cage, so to speak. So if you were having to think on your feet, deal with circumstances, if those circumstances were very taxing and requiring a lot of energy and you might have become quite depleted, you can find that it can be transforming now. Now, spiritually speaking, the creative process inside of those things, because we have Pisces in your 5th house, you can see some changes and really have an understanding of what you're wanting to do with those areas, both from a growth point of view, and your creative mind is going to be very important. You might have had a lot of inner child wounds coming up relating to the circumstances, but it can be a brand new beginning in your belief about, can you start fresh in these areas, even sometimes with the same individuals and groups, and what it can mean to have that new beginning. Sometimes it's putting that hat on, showing up and moving forward to be able to transform that. Now, we do have at the moment Mars transiting your 8th house. You can also find, with it moving out of Taurus and into Gemini, you can be learning and absorbing things a lot quicker, and it can be a lot of things coming at you all at once. But it is the house of healthy codependency, and I do think you're going to make some healthy boundaries both with yourself and individuals around you, and it's so that you don't emotionally absorb that of what isn't yours. You know, really good time to cleanse. Caution this month, especially with gossip and telling people your business, maybe because we do have Mars there. It can be a little bit like holding our cards close to our chest, you know, playing poker. Not necessarily, I wouldn't say lying, but it's being using our smarts. What to say, what not to say, getting involved in other people's drama, just really focusing on being on purpose and what we feel to do with circumstances. I don't know why this song is coming through. It's one man's trash is another one's treasure, and it's like, you know, value systems. Really, what you value, another person may not value, but, you know, really looking at what you feel is going to be correct for you moving forward. Now, you know, movement forward, if there's anything you feel you need to move around, I would pre-warn for all of you. We are having Mars next month transit into Cancer, and for you it will link to your 9th house of the bigger picture. So anything you're needing to move about, if you're finding to now work, with our connections, you know, really, you know, don't sweep anything under the carpet, I'd say that. I'd really say communicate effectively and directly, and you'll find that to flow a lot better now that Mercury will be going direct. And when it does come to these creative projects and our psychology inside these circumstances, looking at them and being able to speak effectively, it will alleviate crosswires as much as we can, and make sure you keep your documentation. I don't know why that's relevant, but that's really what I'm saying. I do feel that for you guys, your notion of balance, you'll be viewing it, but I do feel you'll achieve a lot this month. But do keep your balance. If you find it's slow at the moment, accept that until we get to that new moon in Pisces. And then as you move forward, look at the map for the things you're investing in at work, with individuals, how you spiritually see them, and you can find you're well prepared, so to speak, moving forward, especially to that full moon in Libra, and with Venus moving into Aries later in the month. But it can be very romantic, and it can be very, very creative for you for this new moon in Pisces. Let's get into the guided meditation for this week and fortnight moving through for this transit. Now, new moons are new opportunities to bring in brand new beginnings. And with any new beginning, yes, there can be an ending. But it can be, it doesn't have to be bad. It can be emotionally just coming to terms with things, maybe looking at the map and seeing where we want to go. Sometimes we have too much attachment to the outcome, so it can prevent us from moving forward spiritually and psychologically. Really moving into this new moon, it's a time to relax, revitalize, look at our hopes and dreams, and start moving forward. we're needing to reconnect and listen to our bodies more effectively. A lot of these solutions are inside of us, but we don't listen. Pisces is very much the 12th house, and it's our crown chakra. This being a vibration 3 month is about as above, as below, as within. It's listening to our soul, feeding our soul, keeping our fluid up because it's crown chakra. Taking some time to look at it, and because we had such heavy hitting Mercury energy, potentially our ego was getting in the way because we were trying to make sense of circumstances, which could have made it very unsettling on the sleeping energy. So I do feel some of you will move into that release and acceptance and move towards brand new energy and trusting the process. And that doesn't have to be, it's a different thing. It can just be coming to terms with things, getting excited, opening our arms and ushering in the new story. We're going to move into a moment of bliss and allow what our guides wish us to know to come through to us. Breathe in. Breathe out. One more. Breathe in and breathe out. Now gradually we're going to come out of this, grounding our energy in, feet firmly on the floor. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale. Mantra for the month. I can achieve that of what I desire within my control. I'm at the right place at the right time in all moments. Okay, beautifuls, have a great month. If you do want a booking, you can go to the link directly below. Yes, I can cross-reference between you, loved ones, work, and more. Please stay tuned for all the updates relating to the moon, the astrology, your twin flame path, romance, and psychic updates. Love and light, guys. See you during the month.